All right, we are live. Wow, we already got a bunch of folks here in the chat. I usually have been starting these at 8:15, but maybe you guys are just joining early or something. I'm confused because I'm looking at my clock on my computer and now it says it's just 8:15 now, but on my Rodecaster Pro it says it's already 8:17. So sorry if I kept you guys waiting, but my goodness, do we have a lot to get to this week? There is so much news and so many exciting updates, as well as personally for the channel. We now have channel memberships. So thank you to those of you who have already joined as channel members for $3.99 a month. You can get access to additional member exclusive videos, as well as early access to some of my public videos. And then also you'll get some behind the scenes updates from me in the community tab. So I think it'll just be a fun way to get more of a front row seat into what I'm doing and also get more content around Apple and smart home tech from me. So going to continue to evolve what that all looks like over time, but I'm really excited about it. And, I've been thinking and planning a lot about what could I do for a membership that where I feel like you're getting something valuable every month and I'm continuing to deliver the same thing to you every month. So that's what I'm aiming to do with this membership. I'm really excited that it's finally here, months in the making. So yeah, I'm going to say hi to some folks in the chat. Jeff became a member. Thank you, Jeff. Yes. And AC. Good evening, William and William from Ontario. John, I liked your last video, vacation. Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's a little bit more like remote control smart home than it was like smart home. But anyways, yeah, I thank you. It was a lot of fun to put together, and just something where I realized on that vacation that it's like I have all this peace of mind about what's going on in my home, and this is not new to this vacation. Like this has been going on for years, but I've never really talked about that side of my smart home on the channel. So yeah, and I do really view peace of mind as a key advantage or benefit of a smart home. You know, the key three things you get from a smart home, I think, are convenience, of course, peace of mind, and consistency, right? My lights outside are always going to turn on at sunset, no matter how busy or hectic it is getting the kids to bed before this or whatever. Like, my smart home's not going to mess that up, assuming there are no technical issues, right? But you get what I'm saying. Yeah, Modern Day Tech became a member. Thank you, Modern Day Tech. And Brian, thank you. Great to see you guys. James, and good evening from the South. Saul, good to see you here. Oh, thank you, Break Time. Yes, Mr. W. Yeah, you can get your golden W. It changes each month. I'm different icons, but as you're a member. Yeah, and good evening from Georgia, Jeff. Thanks, John. Great to see you here. And Jose from Costa Rica. Thanks for joining. I love how we have a global audience here. YouTube brings lots of people together from all over the world, and that's this stream is no exception to the usual there. Well, we're going to start off with, I thought we had a bunch of news to cover, and then there were two other big stories that broke today, and so it's just like, wow. So we'll get to some of the news first, and then we can get back to some of the other more personal side of what I'm doing in my home, my smart home, stuff like that. Oh wait, what is this? Some really spammy pop-up ad. Okay. Oh my goodness. I'm trying to show you this website, but it continues to show me these terrible full screen ads. Here we go. Oh no. All right. There we go. Let's hope this holds off because I don't want to have this not work. But Philips Hue leaked a bunch of stuff today, and some keen observers caught it. I wonder if this is almost like their upcoming IFA announcements leaked. But Philips Hue usually does a big push at IFA Which I'll be there. I think there'll be some other of your favorite smart home YouTubers there as well out at IFA this year in a few weeks over in Berlin. But I did a number of years ago on the channel, I cut down Hue at a big keynote, and I did one of those reduced edits of like their keynote at IFA in 5 minutes. It was when they announced the security system. But now they have the Bridge Pro is potentially coming with more capacity. They also have a number of other products, and it was basically like a leak of some of their website. And so it's actually in a PDF where you have the Bridge Pro. There's also a wired video doorbell that's coming. Now, I wouldn't count on this working with HomeKit Secure Video, but because Hue has their own video subscription service, but it makes sense that Hue's adding a doorbell. And I mean, I've not tried their video service myself, but I don't look at it as something bad. So yeah, I mean, and I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe, well, I don't think you could get live view of that in HomeKit. We'll see though. And then some Festivia permanent lights, kind of following the trend of Govee, Nanoleaf, a million others, LifeX, I think, who have these kind of permanent outdoor lights. I've also noticed a number of people in my neighborhood putting these kinds of lights up outside their home. I think this is one of those smart home things. It's like breaking out into I don't want to say normal people, but you get what I'm saying. Like people who aren't as into smart home tech are still putting these lights up. So I can see why Philips Hue probably wants a little bit of that action as well. And then some Globe string lights, nice addition to their outdoor lighting. And Sonos voice control. So Philips Hue and Sonos will have some kind of a voice control thing. And then some new light strips. And then this is, I think is this the one with the motion sensor? One of the other things that came out of this as well is that there will be Philips Hue bulbs with motion sensors. So one of the things you might hear some people talk about online who are into Philips Hue is just this whole idea of, oh, I have, Philips Hue motion sensors in every room. It detects the light level. It does a bunch of automated stuff for me. And so you just walk into the room and the lights turn on. And it's maybe sounds a little bit more idealistic than it actually probably is, but it's not a bad setup. And maybe some of you guys have that kind of a setup. And so it'd be really cool if you could have that, but with just the light bulbs, right? So maybe it looks like maybe the light bulbs will cost a little bit more with the motion sensor or something. I'm not sure exactly on all the details. It just broke today, and I haven't dug into every part of that story. But yeah, I mean, some exciting stuff coming from Hue that leaked today. So can't wait to see. And I'm sure the lighting stuff will connect in various ways to Apple Home. But we'll see how that all filters out. I also think, by the way, there can be some advantage. It is nice with things like Philips Hue. So I have certain rooms in my home are just completely Hue rooms, and same for Lutron and stuff. And it's nice with those rooms because then it's very easy to also add them to other smart home systems. When you get to a sort of a Matter Apple Home smart home where you have all kinds of different brands together, it does get a little more complicated in sort of well, I also want this room to be controlled with another smart home system, Home Assistant, Amazon, Google, whatever. So anyways, it's just something to think about too, is sticking to a brand or two in a particular room can make your life easy in certain ways. But, Philips Hue is pricey, but it's good to see them coming out with new stuff. Now, I want to get to some folks in the chat, but we'll get back to some of the news in just a minute. Water Bottle 365, thanks for joining. Nice to see you here. Good evening, Frederick. Yes, thank you, Frederick. Hit the like button. Yes, the $12 IKEA motion sensor detects light. That's a really good point, John. IKEA, there's more than just Philips Hue these days that have good motion or light sensors and a lot more affordable options. Of course, it's just not that integration of hardware and software. But we'll talk more about smart home that Apple's doing in a minute. Oh, Robert, thanks for becoming a member. Appreciate that. Yeah, James, make it after a July from, okay, that's funny. So let's see. One piece of beta details that I haven't seen talked about much anywhere else, but you would have heard it here on my newsletter, Shameless Self-Promotion. Last shameless self-promotion of the night, I promise. But is the Sunday Scene, my weekly newsletter that comes out on Sunday. It's 3 things in the world of Apple and smart home tech that I think are worth your attention. And one of the things Apple did in their beta last week was that they changed the UI for the thermostat. So now instead of it being that like scrolling wheel that you've probably seen for years in Apple Home, it's this nice new little pop-up menu. They're doing this kind of control in a lot of places in iOS. It's good to see it come to this. I haven't seen it yet in like robot vacuums or some of the other places where they have that similar slider, TVs as well. But I imagine that will come, if not on day one, probably sometime in the iOS 26 cycle. But yeah, so that was just another small detail coming. Of course, they're moving away from HomeKit using Apple Home. That all makes sense. We could spend a while talking about that, but there's so much other news. And today I am organized. So if you're watching this after the stream, I will leave links to all this stuff in the notes. But sometimes I don't get around to doing that. Now, another big breaking news story today coming out of Mark Gurman from Bloomberg is that Apple is bringing back blood oxygen tracking with a workaround. So, actually, I'm not wearing my Apple Watch because it's charging upstairs, but I have an original Apple Watch Ultra, so it still has I got it in 2023 or 2022 before this whole thing blew up. I think it was 22, and it tracks blood oxygen, right? So, but I know plenty of people who have been hesitant to upgrade to Apple Watches because they really want blood oxygen sensing. If you live in the US, there's been kind of an import ban on the technology due to Masimo, which is a medical device company that had a patent on that. So anyways, I think there's a workaround here where Apple will be able to show you the blood oxygen readings as long as you're looking at that on your phone, not on your Apple Watch, which I think is, solving the 80% of the problem for most people. So really exciting to see that coming back, and that's coming with iOS 18.6.1 and watchOS 11.6.1. So stay tuned for those updates. Those are not just to be clear, those are not the releases coming in the fall. This is a 0.1 release coming. I think, is it out today or should be out soon? So stay tuned for that. Because if you have a newer Apple Watch, you'll get blood oxygen. And one place that I actually found that metric to be very helpful, I've mentioned this a little bit on past streams, but is Athlytic, which is a cool, MKBHD mentioned this app recently. I've been using it for like a year at least or more. I think probably a couple of years now. I wanted something kind of like what Whoop and Aura and some other companies give you with like these metrics of how hard are you straining. I'm not a super big athlete, but I tend to push and pull a lot between not enough sleep and wanting to work out. And so like trying to balance those so I don't make myself a zombie for the rest of the day if I have no sleep and a really hard workout. So this keeps track of all that for me. And it watches your blood oxygen among many other things, just as different metrics to look at. Again, not medical advice, not medical grade sensors or anything, but yeah, something that I think could be handy if you're into tracking those kind of things. Speaking of, and we'll not go into too much detail here because I see some other folks in the chat want to get back there and say hi to you guys again. But Mark Gurman also had a big article yesterday about all of Apple's moves into the smart home. And a lot of it was rehashing a lot of previous rumors. And you might think, well, then there's no news here. Who cares? He's just like looking for a story in the summer. I get the sense from this that it's kind of reconfirming that he continues to hear about activity around these projects. Building a lot of these products completely from scratch with all the details Apple has to deal with about, shipping them to many different countries at once and the scale of their manufacturing, even for what Apple would consider a small product line, is absolutely massive. And that takes years. And so I think we heard about a lot of these things when they were probably much earlier on in their process. But to hear them talked about now as launching next year, I mean, I think it's more confirmation that yes, these things are not being abandoned by Apple. This is stuff they're probably gonna actually ship, and they're still working on. So I find these kind of articles very comforting. And of course, they talk about the tabletop robot, which I think will kind of be like the Pixar lamp personality that we've seen from other things Apple's done, and kind of turning around and identifying who's in the room even. That's more like 2027 or beyond. But of course, the smart home display is supposed to come next year, as well as, the other thing that he mentions in this article that I think is worth pointing out is cameras are something Apple's still working on. So a doorbell camera or other kinds of HomeKit cameras. I think the market for those HomeKit cameras hasn't been what Apple would have liked. I mean, there's some good options out there, but we've talked about in this live stream before, like, what's the market for a HomeKit secure video doorbell, right? Like, there's some good options now, but it's taken a long time, and there aren't a lot of really good options. So yeah, it's just it's a tricky thing to I think to get right from a hardware perspective, and something where Apple could do a really good job. So I think it makes sense that Apple's going to do a doorbell at some point, I hope. And in that they're using the facial recognition technology to unlock. I also thought was another kind of interesting idea they're playing with. Of course, we've seen SwitchBot and Eufy, I think, and a bunch of others do face unlocking locks. I know Modern Day Tech Eric, who's in the chat, has been a big fan of those kind of face unlocking locks. Once I get my new front door, maybe I'll give one of those a shot, because I'll have a front door that can more appropriately handle some of those bigger locks, and we'll see what those are like. But yeah, so that's Apple and smart home tech. So I think there's a lot of stuff to be excited about, a lot of stuff coming from Apple. Of course, not really anytime soon, although I do think the last thing on Apple rumors before we move on to other stuff, because I know some of you guys aren't as into the Apple rumors, but where was it? Yes. So this story was Apple's low-cost MacBook Air, could launch this year with an A18 Pro. And I think this is also the logical chip for the new Apple TV to get as well. So there's rumors of a new Apple TV with Apple Intelligence, and that's where the adaptive temperature stuff comes in, probably, that we've seen leaks of. And so it'll be kind of interesting when the low-end MacBook and the Apple TV are both running the same processor. Of course, the MacBook comes with a webcam and a keyboard and a display, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see some people try and hack the Apple TV to somehow work as a Mac. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't recommend doing that, but I'm sure people out there for the clicks and the views will figure that out. Because and run Mac OS on an Apple TV. It would probably be tough with the cooling and storage space, or maybe I guess storage space should be fine. Anyways, maybe the RAM would be limited. Either way, I think it's kind of interesting that we're getting that chip spread to so many different devices. I mean, they have an iPad mini. It'll be coming to this MacBook. So we'll see where that goes. But that's enough on the Apple rumor front for right now. Let me go say hi to some folks in the chat here. JDI, thanks for joining. Good to see you. Okay, I think I'm a little bit behind back. Oh, George, thank you. Good to see you here. Good to see that you're getting back on your bike. That is a very cool looking Mustang bike. If you don't follow George on Instagram, to go see his George Langabeer on Instagram, go see his bike. Very cool Mustang e-bike. I could see why you're, despite the injury, still going back to it, because it's pretty sweet. Yes. I have not seen this input being buggy, Brian. For me, it's been pretty solid. Now, I do have my TV hardwired with Ethernet, which I have not in the past, and I've had issues with TVs on Wi-Fi. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's helping me. But so far, that's been fine. I mean, and I'm sure every company's implementation of the HomeKit support is a little bit different on the TV side. Oh, yes. Okay, cool. Yes. So thank you, Jose. Yeah, the .1 releases are out today, and that's why that article is posted. Got it. Thank you. Yes, it's a story of my life. So, yeah, I was at the gym this afternoon and just not. I was gonna go for a run and just like, oh, I'm not there. It's the end of the week. I'm low on sleep, so it was. I got a workout in, but it wasn't like I'm not proud of how hard I wasn't able to push myself. So. Okay. Yeah, I think that's really the problem, Brian, is that I think I would imagine Apple is very aware of how much success Amazon has had with the Ring doorbell system and that tight integration with Amazon and, of course, Ring security systems. And I think, the doorbell has really clearly become one of the doorbell and the smart lock, I think, and smart thermostat are some of the early purchases a lot of people make for smart home tech. And that can, as I've talked about before, really set you up for what are you going to buy down the road, what's compatible. And so if you buy Ring, then you're with Amazon and that doesn't talk to Apple Home. And then why are you going to do Apple Home if your doorbell can't work with it? So, and I know there's HomeBridge and stuff, but most people are not going to go down that road. Hey, Edgar's Home Tech. Nice to see you here. Thank you so much for for showing up and joining the stream. Okay. Okay. Pretty sure it's LG's implementation. Okay. Yeah. So another thing going on in my life recently, I guess it's kind of smart home related. I'm definitely going to talk about it in the channel, but I'm still trying to figure out how and why, which is how it's just been this week really that this all like arrived. I did a bunch of research about it when I was on vacation, which I'd been wanting to do, just hadn't had the time. I got a Bamboo Lab A1 3D printer. Now, I think, it's 3D printing is one of those things like CrossFit and like Home Assistant where if someone's into it, you will find out about it within about 15 minutes of talking to them. Oh, yes, you like 3D printing as well. It's just something that, I don't know, it just gets people excited. There's a great community of people here on YouTube talking about it. Don't worry, the Apple and smart home content is not going anywhere, but I think there's kind of some adjacent things around 3D printing. And maybe you guys in the chat have also enjoyed 3D printing. And so like, I haven't done much with it yet, but like I made this little, my Hunter fan remote came with some kind of plastic bracket to hold it on the wall, but that since got lost. And so I found this model on MakerWorld, which is Bamboo Labs website, and just printed that so I'll be able to put that on the wall, which should be nice for, just having a spot to put that remote so it doesn't get lost. And then like I just needed a book stand for my desk for at the co-working space, so I just went ahead and printed a little book stand. There's when you set up a Bamboo Lab printer, there's a boat that you print as like part of just making sure the setup worked okay. And I did that last night, and then my kids woke up this morning and I had this little boat and told them that Dad printed it. I told them that Dad, I printed it for them. And now they've started calling this 3D printer that they can see in my office the toy machine, because I made one toy out of it. And I told them I can make more, but I haven't had a chance yet, just because, you got to run the printer and all that stuff. And all the printing takes time. But yeah, it's a fun new side of things. And I think they'll be be some smart home angles for using it as well. So I'm excited. But yeah, I'd love to hear in the chat if any of you guys are into 3D printing as well. I know I've seen Shane talk about it some on his channel. Yeah. Yes, I did, John. So new content avenue for sure. Oh, yes. Yeah, Robert, I'm going to join the category of YouTubers of like, I make $3,000 a week by printing out of my bedroom, which don't worry, that's not what I'm going to talk about, but yeah, I could do that. So, nice. Yes. Yeah. George is back, ladies and gentlemen, which is great to see. So, your body's a wonderful thing. It heals. It's amazing. So, yes, I'm going to be making toys for all the good boys and girls. That's funny. So I just need to grow a big beard. The toy machine, yes. Oh, that's great. Yes, you make toys for your nephews. That's fun. Yeah, so I mean, I was also noticing, like, for those of you who are into like toys for kids or stuff, brief tangent. Don't worry, I'm not going to go long on this. But I did notice, like, there's all this, like, you can print Brio train tracks, and there's all kinds of odds and ends that you can find. I need to make like a toothbrush holder for our kids' bathroom to hold the toothbrushes, and it'll be nice because I can do the 3 toothbrushes with their names on them and stuff. So a lot of little quality of life things, although I'm still figuring out the ideal location to put this whole setup. It's just off camera right now from where you are right now. And if, just this room usually has the door open, so then there's ventilation, and I have an air purifier and stuff. So trying to keep that all safe too. But a lot of the basic PLA and PETG are, I think, pretty harmless. Anyways, so we'll see. But that's 3D printing. Oh yes, waterproof covers for door sensors. That's come up on a previous live stream, and that's a good idea, Saul. So that could be fun. Yes, in PETG is another detail there that's important. Oh yeah, can I? I'm worried I'm going to get this camera messed up. I'll show you another time. You'll see it, and I'll have some more content around that. Yeah, sounds like you guys are into it. So we'll definitely talk about that. Yeah, I cannot wait for George's moving on the 9/27. Okay, cool. Now, yeah, 2 weeks later. It's like to move and then be giving a tour of your smart home in 2 weeks. That's so impressive how fast George moves through stuff like that. But I'm excited for that video as well. It's definitely a classic. So that'll be fun. Because if you don't follow, George Langabeer recently moved to a new apartment. So should be great material for more content. So one of these days, maybe I'll move. But it's not anytime too soon. Yeah, so let's see. I think there was some other news that we didn't get to. Oh yeah, this is kind of a good kind of rehash of some stuff Mark Gurman's talked about around the HomePod Mini. Just things to expect with it. A new chip, of course, with the probably the S9, maybe the S10, which are the systems on a chip inside the watch. This is similar to the HomePod, which also uses an Apple Watch chip, as does the current HomePod Mini. The HomePod 2 uses an Apple Watch chip. And I also think this will be a really nice upgrade because the Wi-Fi on the HomePod Mini leaves a lot to be desired. So I'm excited to see it get Wi-Fi 6E. I think that'll be really nice upgrade. I wouldn't be surprised, by the way, and they also talk about improved sound quality, new color options. it's probably coming sometime this fall. We don't know exactly when. Certainly I'll be talking about it here on the channel whenever it does happen, but it's one of those things where I also think it'll be a time where Apple might increase the price. $99 for an Apple smart speaker, I think is on the low end now. Who knows? They've had such great luck with services and maybe pushing Apple Music and other things with it. So maybe they can keep it at $99. But I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to like $129 or something. Or maybe because I'm thinking it's $129, it'll be $139 or $149, knowing Apple. But it's always like take the price you think and then add 20 or 30%, and that's what Apple will put it at. But yeah, so we'll see. Clearly I don't know if I'd say overdue, but like a long time coming. Nice to see the HomePod Mini get an update. So yeah, that'll be good. I guess that was kind of an Apple rumor thing, but it's very smart home specific, so that's how we can get away with that. And the last Apple related news, which kind of applies, especially if you're traveling this time of year. I know a lot of people are. I wanted to mention this. So you can now get Apple TV Plus shows for free on United Airlines. So obviously, living myself in the Chicago area, they're the airline I fly pretty much every time I fly anywhere. So nice to see them get Apple TV Plus in the entertainment systems. So we'll see how that works when I go to IFA. But what's the most reliable smart lock to connect across large home via Thread? 110 devices need to replace 3 August locks, need reliable remote operation with Apple TV. Well, I mean, there's a lot of variables there in terms of the different types of locks. I would say just based on like what's available today, I think the Nuki lock that I reviewed would be a really good option. I think slot in well for an August lock replacement, kind of retrofit deadbolt scenario. They do use Matter over Thread. They also have a Wi-Fi chip in there. The new Thorbold X1, that's good to hear, Edgar. I have mine sitting in a box. I have not tested it yet. Again, I've been kind of putting off some of my smart lock content until I get a new door, which is coming, but unfortunately probably after IFA. Just, they got to make the door and ship it and all that stuff. But the Thorbold X1, I've heard good things about that one. It's definitely been getting good reviews. I'm excited to check it out myself. That would be more like if you want something with a lot of additional features, right? So like that is the keypad and other things. If you just want like a smart deadbolt, then Nuki might be a little more elegant, especially larger home. Maybe it's a nicer home. I love the fit and finish of the Nuki locks. I think they look really nice. You might also consider something like one of the Aqara ones. I mean, I love the Aqara U100. It doesn't have that beautiful fit and finish of the Nuki locks, but the Aqara U100 is an incredibly reliable lock. It does not require a Aqara hub. Now, it does it use Thread? Maybe I can't remember if it uses Thread or not. But that's just that's what's on my front door right now. And one that I keep coming back to. Smart Lock U100. Yeah, I think, does it use Thread here? I should pull up. No, I don't. There's no Thread on the page. I think it does use Wi-Fi. It could be a nice one that, it's nice to get a keypad just because that way a keypad makes it really easy to deal with people coming and going from your place who aren't really part of your smart home. So yeah, that's the U100. I'm trying to think what other like really standout locks are there right now. I know RA Home has announced theirs, which should be Thread. RA Home does a lot of like Thread stuff, but they haven't like gotten any kind of announced shipping date for their lock. So that'd be another one to just keep an eye out for, maybe, but depending on how tight your timeline is. But again, I have no inside info on when that might be available. You could also look at, it's not necessarily Thread per se, but it's a good, reliable lock in my experience, is the Schlage & Co. Plus. Now, of course, Schlage announced a ultra wideband lock at CES this year, which is yet to ship. Maybe we'll hear more about that at IFA. I don't know. Or sometime this fall. But that could be one. Level also could be another good option now. I think sometimes, sometimes I think their bolt, in my experience, it needs like just the right kind of setup where it's going to perform well. But I think the Level Lock Plus could be a good option. I have not tried the Level Lock Plus myself. I probably will be checking out, something from Level eventually. It's like I should, right? They're a big lock company. I should be having more of a informed opinion on them. But they might be another one to look at as well, because they have a lot of fun options, and they now have Matter over Thread support. Here's their comparison chart of what has what. All right. Oh no, are they just Bluetooth? I thought, okay. Yes. Okay. So the Bluetooth plus Matter over Thread version is $329. So you would want that if you want Thread, and that's going to have the Thread radio. Oh, nice. That's good to hear. And I was really browsing their website and not even showing where I was. This is where I was. Look at, here's the chart on their website. Level Co. Smart Lock Plus. So that could be a nice one too. I love just the look. I think there's a lot of former Apple folks at Level. Just a lot of like that Apple-esque DNA in the product design. So yeah, again, I've not tried this myself. And they do have an additional keypad you can buy separately, like Nuki does as well. The difference, I think, is that the one thing you would get with the Level that you wouldn't get with Nuki is Home Key, right? Because this does, the Level Lock Plus also has Home Key, if I'm not mistaken. Also love the Apple Home Key integration, from user reviews. Okay, cool. So yeah, I would look at that, although I can't vouch for it with my own experience. It sounds like we have some good folks in the chat talking about that. I'm sorry, Adventure Smurf. That is not fun. I would look at the placement of your chime box, because the chime box from Aqara is, from my understanding, what actually connects it to your smart home. So, make sure that's in a good location and, good balance of close to the doorbell, but also close to a Wi-Fi access point. That could be something to consider there. I think there's also just a lot of balance that the doorbell companies, and a lot of camera companies, have struggled with Apple Home, is what is determined offline. I think for a while there, Apple Home, talking to a lot of different camera manufacturers, was over aggressive in considering a camera was offline just because it hadn't heard from it in a minute or something. And I think there's a balance there, right? Like, do you really sound the alarm of like, this is offline, send a notification to the home users? But I don't know. It's a balance there. Okay, cool. But then level matter over thread has been solid working all summer on Apple Home. Cool. Well, that's good to hear. Thanks for sharing more good level lock stories. And yes, it has HomeKey. Thank you, Brian. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I currently still have the G410 on my front door. I reviewed it a few weeks ago, reviews on my channel. Again, as I mentioned in the video, like there's a lot of things I'd like to see a car make in a doorbell, but I can't complain about for what they've made. They did Aqara did a good job making the Aqara G410. So it's not a bad doorbell. Certainly one that's a solid choice. And especially if you need a battery operated doorbell for Apple Home. Huh. Okay, cool. Yeah, another great example of you can use Unify to kind of debug Wi-Fi signals in certain areas. I've not used the 3 Lite. I've used the whatever their top of the line Ecobee was. They sent it to me a while ago as part of a brand deal. It's like I have mixed feelings on Ecobee, right? Because like I have a good relationship with the people at the company who, I mean, not like a YouTube style relationship, but just like as a homeowner hiring them, the people who maintain our HVAC system. Great people, Bartlett Heating and Air, would recommend them. But they have always said like, kind of Ecobee's like a good default smart option, right? And they'll put Ecobee in a lot of people's homes and stuff. And that's what they recommend. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some kind of like a, partnership there, right? Or some kind of similar to an affiliate program for creators for installers, but I'm not certain on that. But it's a bummer because Ecobee, while being so good at what they do from a HVAC side, from what it seems like, and from my experience as well, they have been nowhere on Matter support. And that's just really irked me that Ecobee, now the 3 Lite, I think is that the new one they announced at CES this year? But anyways, like they have they're not even involved in the CSA. So in terms of like companies, because at least like, let's say, for example, Lutron. Lutron does not support Matter right now, but Lutron is actively involved in the CSA. And from what I can tell from the outside, Lutron has every intention of doing some things to support Matter in the future. They're not promising anything and they're not saying when, but you can tell they're thinking long and hard about it. I don't get that at all from Ecobee. And it really bothers me and really makes me conflicted about recommending their stuff. Oh, this is the Smart Thermostat Essential. Here, if I just read the webpage that I'm on, that's the new version of the Lite. But yeah, I can't, maybe there's folks in the chat already chiming in about ideas for Ecobee Wi-Fi issues. But that's just what's made me, not specific to your question, Water Bottle 365, but more broadly. Okay, yeah, yours is around 4 years old. Yeah. More broadly, it really bothers me that Ecobee does not want to do anything with Matter so far. And I hope they change their mind at some point. My Nest thermostat, Nest Gen 4, is really good. But then I'm also conflicted about Google because I think, as you might have been following in the Smart Home News it was like a month ago now or something, they dropped support for a bunch of old Nests in a way that I didn't think was really fair. And I think Google has been known to drop support for older products. And in cases of the smart home, I don't think it's a good decision. And so I don't really want to recommend Google because, I mean, even though with Matter, you probably could still use it, even if Google stopped supporting it per se. But, they're doing a Matter integration through the Google Home app, as I mentioned in my review of that thermostat. Like, you have to set it up in Google Home, and then you can add it to Apple Home. But, I mean, it's been rock solid ever since. I've loved that thermostat, and it looks so cool. This is the 4th gen Nest. It looks a lot like liquid glass, actually, if you think about it. Yeah, I'll pull up a picture, so if you haven't seen what I'm talking about, you'll know. Let's see. Yes. So this is the thermostat I'm talking about. As you might have seen it, but just so if you haven't, yeah. So it looks really cool. But yeah, I mean, it's just like is Google going to just drop support for this in 4 years when you still want to keep the thermostat running? So that's why in general with thermostats, I'm kind of conflicted because I don't feel like there's like, yes, just buy this one, it's great kind of a thing. So, and I don't think, yeah, I think they only have Matter support on this one. I don't think their Nest thermostat, and this is not the learning thermostat, I don't think that supports Matter. Yeah. So, and it's certainly nice too with like the Nest learning thermostat. I also have that multi-admin, so my Amazon Echo Show in the kitchen can also see this thermostat and control it via Matter, and that's worked really well as well. So, anyways, that's the Nest learning thermostat for you. And thermostats and my thoughts on them. Sorry, Waterwell 365. We didn't really get to your question, but hopefully you can figure something out there. I see some good back and forth in the chat right now. All right. Oh no. Okay, so it does, I guess, technically work with Matter, but it sounds like Eggers Home Tech is not having a good experience with the $129 Nest thermostat. So heads up there. Thank you for the fact confirmation, but then also heads up to anybody looking at that thermostat. Yeah, I mean, because the jump from 130 for the low-end Nest thermostat to 280 for the high-end one is a pretty significant jump. Now, when you're talking about the cost of other HVAC stuff, it's pennies compared to an air conditioner or even like a furnace board, depending on the home or whatever. But still, it's still a bunch of money that you could put towards one of those other things. Okay, cool. New house came with the Honeywell. Yeah, I don't like the look of those thermostats or their UI, but yeah, like you're saying, Saul, if my next home has a Honeywell in it and it works with Matter or works even with Apple Home, I might just keep going with that. So, a Nest thermostat. Okay. Nice. So Venture Smurth is another Nest fan. Thoughts on, yeah, TVS, Raitai 92391. And this gets back into the thing. I mean, Shane was talking about this on his live stream yesterday about, there's a new version of Matter, and it's like, with some cool things like additional support for scenes and some other, and Wi-Fi device onboarding and stuff. It's like, when are we going to get any of that? And also Thread 1.3. I almost wonder if this is one of those things. So some people will look at this cynically, right? And be like, well, this is something Apple's doing just to sell new hardware, because there have been plenty of cases in the past, especially I think with things like the iPhone camera, where theoretically they probably could have shipped some of the new camera features, I don't know, cinematic mode or some new portrait thing. They could have shipped it on older hardware, but it's a huge undertaking for someone like Apple to certify and support all kinds of different hardware devices, older hardware devices with a newer technology. And I wouldn't consider this to be as big of an undertaking as a new feature in the iOS camera, right? I mean, the iPhone camera is used by exponentially more people than an Apple TV. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is something where they've been testing the waters on Thread 1.4, and now what we're going to see is it won't be included except for in the new Apple TV, right? For whatever reason, the new Apple TV will have a new chipset that makes it easier for them to support it more. Or it could also be too, I think the only reason the Thread 1.4 stuff ever leaked in the first place was someone saw it broadcasting as Thread 1.4 and I think was able to somehow look at that through some developer tools with smart home stuff. Maybe it was erroneously broadcasting at Thread 1.4 and it never really was doing that, but I think someone else probably would have figured that out by this point. So, I don't know on that, but I think this story is not over here, and I do find it interesting that, I mean, Apple has been silent through this whole thing about just not saying anything about Thread 1.4 in the first place, and even, you know, because they could have, obviously, I can understand why it wouldn't be part of like the marketing for tvOS 26, but it might be something that kind of slips out and like, well, someone at Apple and some semi-public Thread or Matter consortium thing did confirm that it was Thread 1.4, right? Something like that would have come out, probably. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens there. But I think it's interesting. No, never going to happen. The only way that would potentially happen is the same way that Google Nest now works with Apple Home, is Matter, right? If Matter comes out with a standard for cameras that people are happy with, then maybe. But I think in that case, Matter's camera standard, if it ever happens, will only be live view, right? Because all these companies want to sell you on their own video subscription. So that would mean that you continue to pay for Ring's video subscription, but then with that, you also get the camera with Matter, which means you get a live view of the camera in Apple Home or whatever other system you want to use. And I don't know if that's ever going to happen, because I think getting all these camera companies on board with a Matter standard and getting them all to implement it is going to be the biggest herd of cats of any of the smart home standard stuff that we've seen. But yeah. Unfortunately, Brian, I don't think it's going to happen. And that's, I think, why Apple really needs to make a good HomeKit doorbell that people want to buy. I mean, not that the ones we have right now aren't good, but I think Apple could position it and market it and promote it and integrate it into Apple stuff in a way that other doorbell companies can't. And so I think that's where Apple needs to convince all those people who have Ring cameras that they need to get the Apple one because they're using an iPhone. And, you know, I think Apple can do that with at least some number of those people. And I'm sure that's some business analyst in Apple is probably crunching all those numbers to prove that that's why they're making that product. So hopefully. So I guess Adventure Smart's asking, like, I mean, I think it will compete with the Echo Show, but I just think it's also apples and oranges in terms of products, right? By the way, a side rant on the Echo Show. The thing that annoys me so much, and this is still true in the new operating system, and this is the thing that makes me want to just abandon the device completely, is Amazon still wants to have a way. Now, in the old OS, pre-Alexa Plus, I shouldn't say that word, sorry. Pre-Amazon's new Voice Assistant Plus version, there was an option for like you could basically turn off all the Amazon stuff, right? We just had it as a photo frame, and then we had the family calendar and weather on the side. And that was great because there was no Amazon promotion square, basically. Because if you buy an Echo Show, and you've probably seen this at relatives' houses or other people you know who have an Echo Show and aren't really super into customizing it, right? Like not into smart home tech, but they just have one in their home. Is that it's just like a portal for Amazon to put whatever news story or thing that it thinks is interesting, right? And it might cycle in some of your photos if you have Amazon Photos, but it just has this little square. And I don't want to see news stories in my kitchen in the morning when I wake up, and especially news stories that Amazon has picked for me from a handful of different news sources, and maybe Apple will have something like that with Apple News, but I would bet that if Apple does something like that, you could customize it, get rid of it. Like there's no way to get rid of this little widget in Amazon's system, and that just drives me crazy. But that's because that's still there. I mean, I love a lot of the other stuff I can put on the Echo around it, but I think it's going to be more. It's going to be more like that, but for Apple families, where I think it'll be more closely tied into Apple's apps and services, and hopefully other services that work well with your iPhone over time, right? So other calendar services, other productivity apps will have different things for the smart display. And I think it's also an interesting point that's like, the smart display is a smart home product to a certain extent because you're controlling your smart home. But I think a lot of it is going to be, as the rumors point to, it's like it's about app intents, and it's about, I'm in the kitchen and I don't want to touch my dirty smartphone, but I want to be able to do X, Y, or Z thing. And yes, there are personal commands with the current set of HomePods, but that's limited and in scope and doesn't always pick up your voice. At least in my experience. So, and of course you have Apple Watch as well, but I think Apple's looking at that kind of use case and thinking there's a lot to be desired. And I think it's also why, I haven't talked about the Amazon Echo, new experience with the ALEXA Plus, just because, it's cool, but it's in a lot of ways, it's not really a smart home product. That said, I'm excited to cover the new Apple display and look at it compared to other options and things like that on this channel. I think it is, because it is a smart home product, but it's also not, right? And it's like, what is the boundary of a smart home, right? Is a 3D printer part of a smart home? Is a robot vacuum part of a smart home? Is a smart TV part of a smart home? Different people would say different things. I think, yes, those are all part of a smart home, but other people might say no. So yeah, just a lot of details and things, but I think yes, I think Apple is going after that market of a Echo Show buyer, but again, I think it's because of what Apple is probably trying to do with it. I think it's going to be a little bit different of a device, especially because of how tightly it will tie into, hopefully, all of your digital life around Apple stuff, including your phone, which Amazon can't do, because you don't have an Amazon phone in your pocket. Yes, this is something I think that gets overlooked too much in our culture, as much as we love our phones. It's like, phones are dirtier than toilets. Like, I don't want to touch your phone. No offense to any of you, but if I saw you, sure, if we take a picture, great, I'll whatever. I'll touch your phone, but then I'm going to go wash my hands and after that, before I eat. And so, yeah, it's just when I'm doing cooking or preparing food in the kitchen, that's when voice commands are really valuable. I want to be able to talk to a display, see a response. I want to add a reminder to my shopping list, see that the thing added it right and visually on the display, pull up a camera in my smart home, do all kinds of other tasks. And not have to be using my hands, because my hands are working with food. And I think it's a pretty common problem as well. So anyways. Oh, I just I mean they made one a while back, right? And it was a failure. I don't think Amazon's going to make a phone at this point. What I mean by that, right, is like, Amazon can tie into your digital life in ways that Apple can't, because they're probably, I mean, depending on what you have, right? I mean, Walmart's obviously doing a lot to compete with Amazon in this space, but like home delivery, right? So if you're into Amazon, that's a whole avenue that Amazon can do, but Apple can do things that Amazon can't, right? Because you might be using Apple reminders, not Amazon shopping list, for like how you organize your shopping lists or stuff like that. So that's what I was getting at there. Yeah, schools are locking up the phones. Nice. Yeah, I mean, look, this business of YouTube, right, that I'm doing here is based around social media to a certain extent, but it's like I'm probably one of those more like less pro social media creators. Like, you don't see me a ton on social media per se, more just publishing videos on YouTube. I don't, and I'm also terribly slow at replying to Instagram messages usually. So I'm sorry about that. It's like the worst way to get in touch with me. But yeah, it's just like, I don't use those services as much as, anyways, social media is great. But there's also a side of it that I think it's like, I've described it sometimes. It's like junk food and fast food. Like I had some candy today to celebrate that I launched memberships, right? I went to the grocery store and got some candy. And that was great. And I loved it. But right, like if that's all I ate and ate too much of it, that wouldn't be healthy for me. And so I think the same thing is true with social media, right? It's like it's junk food for your brain, which can be a lot of fun. But it's also like there's a balance there. So, oh yes, that's another point, Karen's good point. Yeah, you don't want to get food on your iPhone, and that's another side of this as well. And then having to clean that off. So, well, I mean, I think that's why the Apple display is going to cost more, because that's what the Apple customer wants to pay for, right? They don't want as much of an ad-driven experience, and they'll pay a premium for that. I'm sure Amazon does make money in various ways from the little things they shove onto your Echo Show. And so it's what makes it such a affordable priced product. I can't remember exactly what I paid for my Echo Show 24, but it wasn't what I'm sure it wouldn't be what Apple would charge if they shipped a similar 24-inch display. Also, I think Apple would put nicer display technology in their screen than Amazon does. The Amazon one isn't bad per se, but it's definitely not like the quality of Apple's displays. So yeah, I think that's a key difference there. But then, of course, Apple and Amazon are competing there for different types of products aimed kind of at the same consumer. Yeah, and Amazon is not the only one. Yeah, Roku has ads everywhere. A lot of these smart TVs have ads everywhere. Google TV is another one that I like for a smart TV platform, but it has ads everywhere too. And they got to make money, so got to pay for the development of those platforms. But yeah, you're right. Adventure Smurf, they're going to look at the services revenue there, and might be. Yes, Edgar's Home Tech. I'm sorry you missed that. We talked about that at the beginning of the stream. Some mega leaks from Philips Hue, and it also makes me very excited for what is to come. Hopefully in the next few weeks, IFA and beyond from Philips Hue. But really sorry for their web team or whoever mistakenly leaked that. Not good. But we've been going an hour here. It's been super fun talking to you guys on the channel, and so much news this week. And thank you to all of you who became channel members as well. Really appreciate your support. I launched that just today. And then also, but anyways, hope you have a good night. And I don't have another video to like suggest to you. Sometimes I do that, but I don't have one this week. But have a good night and hope to see you in the next video. Bye.